Good evening, everyone. This is the February 2nd special meeting of the Warren Zoning Board of Review, specifically to pick up where we left off on application ZB-25-34. At the moment, we do have 4 members of the zoning board, so we are able to open the meeting. Unfortunately, one of our members is running a little bit late. Michael Alves will be here in about 10 minutes. And he does need to be present in order to actually begin the business. So we will be taking a brief recess for maybe another 5 or 10 minutes until Mr. Alves arrives, and then we will be picking up with application ZB-25-34 at that time. So thank you for your patience. We'll be back with you in about 10 minutes.
All right, we're back.
Alrighty, we are officially back. Michael Alves has joined us. So I am your chair, Jason Rainone. To my right is Jason Nystrom. Continuing down the row is Bert Rodriguez, Michael Alves, and our vice chair, Chuck Thibodeau. Jason Nystrom is welcome to participate in the discussions this evening. He is not a voting member for the purposes of this application because unfortunately he was not present for testimony on this application at our regular January meeting. I know the solicitor has a few clarifications to discuss, so Ben, if you would.
Chair, after last, we moved, I went back and there, run into also zoning regulations, and it's my opinion that, although I stated that we will not use the general standards of the special use permit, I have, reversed my opinion on that. In fact, you can. The only one that I will say to not use is the one that the applicant's attorney, my opinion, rightfully said we can't use. That's whether or not it's compatible with a comprehensive community plan. That's section 32-30-C. So you can apply A, B, and D in addition to the standards that are listed in the marijuana ordinance. And the reason behind that is because every special use permit that this board has ever issued, any as I've been there, have applied those general standards to all special use permits. To be consistent, I think that's the intent of it, is that we can't apply those three. Again, I would want that possible the comp plan. So that's the first matter that I just want to clarify with the board. Because other issues came up such as pot use, so that's why I had to reevaluate the situation. That's my opinion. Second clarification, one of the members talked about what would happen if this is approved to neighboring properties and uses. I just want to make it very clear that the standard and special use permit that we're looking at today only can be judged or analyzed for what's there today, what uses are in place right now. If you approve this and 6 months from now, next door is a youth agency that comes in, it will not prohibit them from coming in. Okay, they will move in knowing that this establishment is next door. So I just want to make that very clear to you. And I think the last thing I'm going to say is that when somebody does make a motion for a decision, just make sure that we explain findings of fact. Let's put them all on the record, so it's 3 minutes. And just explain why you're taking a certain position on a certain part of the statements.
Understood.
I do have one question for council. So under the special use permit for cannabis, it says that the requested use at the proposed locations will not adversely affect the use of any property used for a school, public or private playground, playfield, youth center, licensed daycare center, or any other location where groups of minors regularly congregate. I know we had spoken about the pickleball facility and no one came forward to say that one way or another there was youth there. However, a reasonable person would say that across the street, there's the mini golf, the driving range, where, you know, I'm sure we've seen youths go in there driving a ball with their families, hitting a golf ball at the mini golf course. Would we as a board be compelled to say no to this because of that, or does someone have to come forward and say, hey?
So my understanding of this particular standard is kind of twofold. First, you gotta make a finding of fact that that there's an establishment such as a mini golf or pickleball where minors regularly congregate. That finding has to be made. If you make that in the affirmative, then you go to step number 2 is whether or not this special use permit adversely will affect that particular youth gathering establishment. And if the answer is yes, you need to explain why. And how you explain why is by testimony, it's by what's on the record, and it's by, you can also use your own knowledge of the town, of the area. However, whatever's on the record is on the record.
Thank you.
Very good. So When last we left our faithful heroes, we were dealing with application ZB 25-34, East Bay Cannabis LLC, owner and Michael Borges, applicant, 317 Market Street, plat map 21, lot 3, request for a special use permit to allow retail cannabis in the rural business zoning district. Counselor, name and address for the record again, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Patrick McBurney of Pinone, Lopes, Devereaux, and O'Gara, 1301 Atwood Avenue, Johnston, Rhode Island, 02919.
Excellent.
Uh,
When we had last met, obviously the board had some concerns, and there was also a question of whether or not we had been provided adequate time to go through the materials, hence the continuance. So I believe all of the members of the board have now had adequate time to go through the material that was provided, including, although reduced in size, a relatively complete package of the planning board application for this site redevelopment. Were any of the members on the board concerned about what was in the packet or did not have enough time to review? Take that as a no.
No.
Excellent. So, Counselor, I think what we may want to do for the sake of making sure that we don't miss anything and so that the board can feel like it has taken adequate notes, would you mind essentially running through the standards that are in the ordinance and letting us know either what within the packet is testimony to that effect, or filling us in with any additional information you may have this time that we had requested the last time?
Sure, I can absolutely do that, Mr. Chairman. So starting with the standard one, which is that you should be provided the legal name and address of the retail cannabis and a copy of the articles of incorporation. That's been provided as part of the package to you. It's East Bay Cannabis LLC. And obviously the articles of incorporation were included. Number two is the one that generated probably the most discussion, which is the requested use at the proposed location will not adversely affect the use of any proposed of any property used for a school, public or private park, playground, playfield, youth center, licensed daycare center, or any other location where groups of minors regularly congregate. I don't think there's been any testimony or any evidence that there is a school, public or private park, playground, playfield, youth center, or licensed daycare center within the vicinity. Therefore, we go to the catch-all, which is any other location where groups of minors regularly congregate. I think that in order to make that determination that there is a place where the youth regularly congregate, you're going to have to use your own personal and subjective knowledge. I think where youth regularly congregate is up to interpretation. How many youths, how often, how frequent, it's not a well-defined regulation. But even if you do make that step, you also need to make the additional step that it's going to adversely impact the property. Well, what's an adverse impact? Is it a financial impact? Is it a societal impact? I'm not quite sure what we're looking at there. But again, we haven't had any testimony or any evidence. I will say that the applicants did talk to the owner of the pickleball operation. They informed them they have no objection to the application. I think that's shown, number one, and can be shown through their testimony if you want to put them under oath regarding their conversation with them. But also the fact that they received notice of the prior meeting. They obviously knew about tonight because they went to talk to them several times between the last meeting and tonight. They're not here. They're not here to object to the application. And they actually affirmatively told my client they don't have a problem with the application.
I think from getting it on the record from someone who was in that conversation, if you could please.
Zach Rivers, 29 Harrison Street, Bristol, Rhode Island.
Okay.
Did speak with them several times. They didn't see how it had any impact on them, discussed it with them, and they said they do not oppose it. They really, to them, they said it's irrelevant to their business, nor do they think it would have any impact on them. So
You just specify your name.
sorry, East Bay Pickleball.
And you spoke to the owners of the business not the landlord for the.
So I represent the landlord. I'm one of the owners of the property. So I apologize. I should have stated that. So
But the folks
Same
that,
landlord.
the folks that run pickleball have no objection to this.
correct. And they did receive a call from someone as well, which they said they reiterated that as well on the phone.
Mhm.
I'm not sure who the individual was. They didn't get a name, or they provide one.
That was
So-
probably David.
So they did say they reiterated that to the individual who called, and they said they called numerous times. So
Interesting. Okay.
Additionally, as your solicitor told you, if a person wants to use a property in the future for one of these uses, it's not going to impact their ability to do so. We're kind of judging this at the time of the application, doesn't impact future uses in any way whatsoever.
Well, I mean, there are regulations for daycares and stuff like that that are in the state level that
So
would
it's-
impact them from that.
No, so it's state level, but it's also, you can't locate a cannabis business within a certain number of feet of an existing place.
Right.
But if a daycare wanted to come in 2-3 years down the road, the cannabis control regulations don't control that daycare, so to speak. If a daycare, well, daycare is a bad example because it's not defined by a certain feet. But say, like number 6, it has to be 500 feet from a school. If a school 3 or 4 years down the road locates within, say, 300 feet of this location and they're operating, what happens is this location becomes a legal non-conforming use at that point in time, I would argue. And then you'd have certain protections that the town would have at that point in time, because it's now no longer in compliance with number 6. I think that's what happens to it. Your solicitor may or may not disagree, but I think that's probably the analysis that you would have to take.
Correct, I do agree. In addition to that, section 32-166 permitted uses, particularly in this district, is pretty strict in terms of what's allowed there. Daycare is not allowed there. It's not a permitted use. It's in the area where there's office buildings, where there's communication studio, retail sales of goods produced on site. That type of catering services, funeral home, et cetera, et cetera. Not saying this is always going to be what's
Right.
on permitted, but that's what's currently in that area.
I-
Or permitted in that area. I'm sorry, permitted.
I think your protection, if one of these types of businesses comes in, is that it makes this go from a use approved by a special use permit
Mhm.
and allowed to a legal non-conforming use.
Mhm.
So then you have protections regarding if they try to expand the business, intensify the use. Obviously, they'd have to
Right.
come back for
Okay.
farther approval. So that's the protections you get if something happens down the line. But turning back to the criteria, number 3, the requested use at the proposed location will be sufficiently buffered in relation to any residential area in the immediate vicinity, so as not to adversely affect said area. I believe there's been testimony that the closest residential area is over 250 feet away. Also, the residential area surrounding the property is pretty heavily buffered by trees, matured trees.
And that's as shown on the landscape plan that's included in the planning board application package.
Would be shown there, and then not sure if an aerial. Be shown there, and then also there's an aerial in the map that has measures of distances to schools. And if you look, the closest residential area is to the south and to the east, and you kind of see surrounding that the heavily treed area in that photo, providing a pretty substantial buffer between I do apologize, I should have had it in color, but it does show a pretty substantial buffer between the property and the closest residential areas.
Okay.
Number 4 is that the exterior appearance of the structure must be consistent with the exterior appearance of existing structures within the immediate neighborhood so as to prevent blight or deterioration or substantial diminishment or impairment of property values within the neighborhood. Again, the site plans that were provided to the planning board and were made part of the package show that the exterior design of the building is consistent with the building that's already existing on the property. Furthermore, in the package, the project description that we provide to you, we also provided details regarding exterior cleaning, maintenance around the facility and the parking lot, daily sweeps to make sure there's no debris or anything, to ensure that there's no blight on that, what's essentially a retail plaza or will become a retail plaza. Number 5 is not applicable because it's only applicable to a licensed cultivator or non-residential cooperative cultivation. Number 6 requires that the cannabis retailer must not be located within 100 feet from the nearest residential zoning district and 500 feet from the nearest school. We provided site maps that were part of the probably maps from the town's GIS system that showed how close the nearest school and nearest residential neighborhood are, and we meet both of those. Number 7 just describes how you do the measurements for number 6. Number 8 is that lighting shall be required such that it will illuminate the property in order to provide proper security, and the proposed use shall implement the appropriate security measures to deter and prevent the unauthorized entrance into areas containing marijuana, and shall ensure that each location has a monitored operational security alarm system. Again, we provide the site plan with the lighting that have been approved by planning board. There's also a description of security measures in the project summary. And you also heard some testimony from Mr. Borges regarding security measures and how there'll be secure areas of the facility containing the marijuana, and also how a typical customer interaction will take place where they check in, go through process of being vetted, then allowed in, consulted with a customer representative. Customer representative will then go retrieve the product after payment's made and hands them in a bag that no product can be consumed on site. So you heard about a lot of those types of measures, which all go into security. You also heard how the security will have to be in conformance with the Cannabis Control Commission's regulations, which are pretty stringent standards for security.
Just to clarify, so the lighting plan in the planning board package is the current expected lighting plan for the site?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, and if I'm reading this correctly, all lighting on the existing building is intended to stay, so it will only be lighting added to the new buildings, and everything that's there currently will remain.
Yes, just the lighting that's shown on the site plan, because that was approved per the planning board. They're pretty stringent on the down lighting.
Yeah, so personally, I wish they were a little more stringent, but I'll write an email to the planning board. Yeah, I have concerns about the existing lighting, but I'll send it in an email and it'll be up to them as to whether or not that moves forward. And we did hear the information about the security system the last time we were here, so please continue.
Thank you. Number 9 is that no use shall be established prior to submission and approval of a site plan by the zoning board of review with the technical advice of the zoning official. Site plan shall depict all existing and proposed buildings, parking spaces, driveways, service areas, and other open uses. The site plan shall show the distances between the proposed use and the boundary of the nearest residential zoning district and the property line of all other abutting uses as described within this section.
And am I correct that essentially the crux of that particular standard is you're not allowed to do business before this board says that it is appropriate?
That's my understanding, yes. And again, we provide the site plan to you. Number 10 is that prior to any retail license being issued by the town, a cannabis establishment or marijuana establishment must submit for approval to the Warren Police Department a security plan. It then goes on to, I can read it if you'd like, but it's quite lengthy, the rest of it. But essentially states that the plan needs to be provisions to provide the Warren Police Department, Rhode State Police, and local and residential commercial neighbors within 100 feet of the retail site with the name and phone number of an operations manager and general manager for notification during and after operating hours to whom they can report any issues or problems at the facility. Plan shall also include theft and diversion notification and protocols. Again, my client's already contacted the Warren Police Department to begin that process. They're aware of that requirement. They have the security system that's required pursuant to the Cannabis Control Commission, and they will also be providing a name of an operations manager and general manager as required to both, well, to the Warren Police Department, state police, any other local residential and commercial neighbors within 100 feet. And then number 11 is essentially that cannabis retailers shall lawfully comply with all licensing requirements of the town of Warren and the laws of the state of Rhode Island. They acknowledge that condition. They are currently in the process of trying to obtain a license from the state of Rhode Island through the Cannabis Control Commission. And obviously they're before the planning board with respect to final plan approval, and will comply with any other licensing requirements of the town.
Has the state come out with a date as to when the lottery will be
So
drawn?
I believe the applications are due March 1st, then there's a review process to see who's satisfied the application criteria. And then I believe they're aiming to draw the lottery in April. Is that correct? Yeah. April into May.
Are there other questions, concerns from the board members? Anything that we think we need additional information on? Only because I think I reserved the right to reopen public comment the last time around. We will officially open the public portion of this special meeting. Seeing as how we're the only ones in the room, we will close the public portion and bring it back to the applicant. Is there anything else that you feel we need to know in reviewing this application?
I think that we've been pretty thorough with this application. I'm going to respectfully state my objection to the solicitor's position regarding the additional requirements above and beyond what's included in the town ordinance 3231C. And I believe he's probably referencing conformance with the neighborhood and others conditions. Is that what you're?
Yes, so those
And-
3 additional requirements would be compatible with the neighboring land uses, will not create a nuisance or hazard in the neighborhood, and the public convenience and welfare will be so.
So number one, I don't think there's been any testimony regarding that, that you can draw the inference that those aren't satisfied. Number two is, I'd say that those are inherently subjective criteria, which zoning boards in the past have asked for expert opinion on. You bring an expert in to provide a subjective opinion regarding a criteria. Again, the zoning laws were amended, the zoning act was amended to state that special use permits have to provide for specific and objective criteria. I understand that it's been done this way since the zoning act was adopted by the legislature, probably longer than I've been around. But that changed, and so respectfully, I disagree. I understand that's his opinion, and that the board is almost duty bound to follow their solicitor, but I do want to put that out there.
Understood. Gentlemen, is there any other questions for this applicant? Is any brave soul willing to make a motion on this matter?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion.
Very good.
So hitting on all the points that on all the standards that the council has made. So the application for the special use permit shall provide a legal name, an address of a licensed cultivator or non-residential cooperative cultivation, a copy of the articles of incorporation, if any, and the name and address and date of
For-
birth.
You voting
to Let's start- approve
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's right.
Yes, so.
So start with reading the application itself
Yeah.
and say whether you are moving
So-
approval or just
Jumping right into it. So I make a motion to approve application ZB 2534, East Bay Cannabis LLC, owner, and Michael Borges applicant, 317 Market Street, plat map 21, lot 3, request for a special use permit to allow retail cannabis in the rural business zoning district. So, all right, let's start from the beginning. This is a long one. Good for water. The application for a special use permit shall provide the legal name and address of the licensed cultivator or non-residential cooperative cultivation, a copy of the articles of incorporation, if any, and the name and address and date of birth of each principal officer and board member, if any. The applicant has satisfied the submission requirements as I reviewed all the documents presented. By providing legal name and business address of licensed retailer together with a copy of the articles of incorporation. The applicant has further submitted the name and date of birth of each principal officer. Identified as Michael Borges, Bristol, Rhode Island, Eric Powers of San Luis Obispo, California, and Zachary Rivers of Rhode Island. Number 2, the requested use at the proposed location will not adversely affect the use of any property used for a school, public, or private park, playground, playfield, youth center, licensed daycare center, or any other location where groups of minors regularly congregate. Although the East Bay pickleball facility is located on the same parcel of land as proposed cannabis retail storefront, and is in close proximity, as reflected in the plans submitted to the zoning board of review. And although the issue of presence of minors was discussed at the prior hearing, no evidence was introduced, nor was any public testimony offered, establishing that that facility constitutes the location where groups of minors regularly congregate. The record does not support a finding that the proposed cannabis retail use would adversely affect or be incompatible with such use as which would preclude them from the special use permit. Number 3, the requested use at the proposed location will be sufficiently buffered in relation to any residential area in the immediate vicinity, so as to adversely affect said area. Reviewing the site plans, the applicant has submitted the site plan demonstrating adequate buffering along the eastern boundary of the subject parcel, where a single-family residence is located. Additionally, the board notes that I note that for the record, there is a single-family residence located at 15 Schoolhouse Road, as shown in the GIS mapping here. However, that residence is, sorry, I lost my place here. However, that residence is situated within a residential business zoning district. Based on the evidence presented, the proposed use is sufficiently buffered so as not to adversely affect the residential area or residence area in the immediate vicinity. Number 4, the exterior appearance of the structure must be consistent with the exterior appearance of the existing structures within the immediate neighborhood, so as to prevent blight and deterioration or substantial diminishment or impairment or property values within the neighborhood. These site plans submitted by the applicant illustrate that the exterior appearance of the proposed structure is consistent with the existing structures within the immediate neighborhood. And based on the evidence presented, the proposed design is not expected to result in blight or deterioration, nor to substantially diminish or impair property values in the surrounding area, therefore satisfying the standard. Number 5, as the council has stated, does not apply to this as it refers to cultivation. Number 6, the licensed cannabis retailer must not be located within 100 feet from the nearest residential zoning district and 500 feet from the nearest school. The proposed retailer is located more than 500 feet from the nearest school, which is Highlanders Charter School, located at 360 Market Street. As measured in a straight line, from the nearest property line of the subject premises, nearest boundary line of the school, and that no residential zoning districts exist within 100 feet of the subject premises. Therefore, again, satisfying the requirement of the ordinance. And number 7, the the distance specified in the immediately preceding Section 5 shall be measured by a straight line from the nearest property line of the premises on which the proposed licensed cultivator or non-residential cooperative cultivation use is to be located in the nearest boundary line of a residential district or to the nearest property line of any other designated use set forth therein, excuse me. Which is pretty much repeating it from the section above. The distance required under Section 5 have been measured in a straight line from the nearest property line of the premises on which the proposed licensed cultivator or non-residential cooperative cultivation use is to be located to the nearest boundary line of the Highlander Charter School, which I already stated, and that the proposed location complies with the separation requirements set forth in the ordinance. Number 8, lighting shall be required such that will illuminate the property in order to provide proper security. And the proposed use shall implement the appropriate security measures to deter and prevent the unauthorized entrance into areas containing marijuana, and shall ensure each location has monitored operational security and alarm systems. The applicant has submitted a site plan illustrating the proposed lighting plan, which provides adequate illumination of the property for security purposes. Excuse me. The applicant also submitted detailed project description outlining the implementation of appropriate security measures, including a monitored security and alarm system and a 24-hour surveillance system utilizing, according to his document, a cloud hybrid security cameras with facial recognition, license plate recognition, and vehicle recognition capabilities. Based on the evidence presented, the proposed use satisfies the lighting and security requirements of the ordinance. Number 9, the use shall be established, the use should be established prior to submission and approval of the site plan by the zoning board of review with the technical advice of the zoning official. The site plan shall depict all existing and proposed buildings, parking spaces, driveways, service areas, and other open uses. The site plan shall show the distance between the proposed use of the boundary of the nearest residential zoning district and the property line of all other abutting uses as described within this section. The applicant has submitted a site plan for review and approval depicting all existing and proposed buildings, parking areas, driveways, service areas, and other open uses on the subject premises. The site plan further illustrates that the required distances between the proposed use and the boundary of the nearest residential zoning district, as well as the property lines of all abutting users as required by the ordinance. Based on the evidence presented and subject to final approval by this board with technical advice from the zoning official, the proposed use complies with this agreement. Number 10. Prior to the retail license being issued by the town, a cannabis establishment or marijuana establishment must submit for approval to the Warren Police Department a security plan. Each establishment shall have a monitored electric security system, intrusion detection system, access control system, and other ancillary services, including designated perimeter defense, physical and logical access control, and profile management of all employees. The plan shall include provisions to provide to the Warren Police Department, Rhode Island State Police, and local residential and commercial neighbors within 100 feet of the retail site with the name and phone number of the operations manager and general manager for notification during and after operating hours, to whom they can report an issue or problem at the facility. The plan also shall include theft and diversion notification protocols. As council has mentioned that they've already reached out to the police department, the local police department, with that plan. Number 11, all non-residential cooperative cultivation cannabis retailer, cannabis testing laboratory, and licensed cultivator use shall fully comply with all licensing requirements of the town of Warren and laws of the state of Rhode Island, which again, the applicant on behalf of his attorney, the attorney on behalf of his applicant has stated that they will be complying with all state and local laws related to cannabis retail. And I am done.
Also, address please 32-30, minutes, and have a copy of that there.
Yes, please.
Just don't you see.
32-30.
Yeah, A, B.
A, B, and D.
When they cross them.
And also to touch on the general standards for a special use permit, uses requiring the granting of special use permit. In this ordinance shall be permitted by the zoning board of review following a public hearing. Only if, in the opinion of the board, such uses meet the following standards. They will be compatible with the neighboring land uses, and as we know, there are several retail businesses in the area. There's no evidence presented that this business will create a nuisance or a hazard in the neighborhood. And D, that the public convenience and welfare will be served. There are several retail shops again in the area. So it definitely will be served. It'd also be a benefit to the town, as it will be able to collect tax revenue from this business. Want to read the bottom part? That's it? Okay.
This is, Chair, if I may ask a couple of conditions. This is condition on final plan approval from the planning board for the development there, that it meets all local, state, and federal regulations where applicable.
And finally, that another condition is that the security plan is approved by the police department, which is part of the standards anyway, but as a condition. State and local regulations.
Just say so be it.
Mr. Rodriguez?
So
no
be it.
objection? Very good. There is a motion on the floor. Is there a second? I will second. And due to the nature of this application, we will do this as a roll call vote. A yes is an approval of this motion. A no is a denial of this motion. Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes,
Mr. Alves,
Yes.
Mr. Thibodeau.
Yes.
And I will be yes. That is 4 notes in the affirmative. For the record, I will also add that there has been no public testimony for or against in this instance, either at our original meeting or at this special meeting. So gentlemen, I wish you the best of luck. And with that being said, is there a motion to adjourn? Actually, Ben, do we have any administrative stuff we need to deal with? Very good. Motion to
I
adjourn.
make a motion for adjourn.
Is there a second?
Oh,
Second to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
so.
Second.